Okay, so I wanted to do something a little bit different with the build of my new Norco Revolver. A lot of the time, people customize or upgrade their bikes, and people think, why? The bike is like a $10,000 bike to start with. How could you possibly need to spend more money or do something differently? But there's obviously a lot of people that change things because they want to and they can. For me, the reason why I make some changes is basically to customize the bike to suit me. I'm a bit of a fussy rider and pretty particular with what I want the bike to feel and perform like. So I thought I'd run you through what I'm going to change on my personal bike, which will hopefully become the 2020 national champion for Masters on cross country. So I'll start with the cockpit. So the standard bars are a little bit higher and a little bit wider than I would like. Like they're a 780 wide bar, which is really wide for a lot of the trails in the gorge, which I know that I can't get through on those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap it out to race face carbon. Still going to retain the carbon bar, but instead of having a 20mm rise, I'm only going to go with a 10mm rise, and I've already cut these down to 740. So pretty narrow for an enduro style or mountain bike, but on the wider side, I guess, for XC. So that's going to give me plenty of clearance. I don't need to slow down when I'm going through any trees. I'm also going to put on some Supercaz grips just because I personally like them, and it also means that when I go to resell the bike, it can have brand new fresh stock grips on it. I'm going to obviously put my K-Edge Wahoo mount on it. As you can see, I've already slammed the stem, but I'm not going to cut the steerer tube because, again, resale value. And obviously the neat thing with this one is it's adjustable, because if you have it non-adjustable, the computer screen is not going to sit very nicely, and you can adjust it to suit where you want it to sit. I will also change the stem. I'll still continue with the turbine stem, but at a different length, which I'm going to play around with because I know my measurements, and as this is stock, it's not quite where I'd like it, but I'm going to ride it first anyway and see. One of the neat things with the new AXS reverb droppers is you can use it on a trail where you need it. So if I'm going to a race and I'll do the course reconnaissance and it's a trail that I'm definitely going to need a dropper on, I can flick it in, put the switch on, put the dropper in, and I don't have to reroute cables and that sort of thing. But for courses where I know that it's going to be climbing and I don't want to have that couple extra 100 grams of weight, I've got this race face carbon seat post where I'll just put that in, so I can just run the seat on there rather than having to worry about the dropper. So again, saving some grams, and I'm quite used to riding my previous Revolver race bike without a dropper anyway, so there'll probably be quite a bit of the time when I'll be using that. The saddle, I just know these saddles work for me. I've had too many injuries with broken ankles, knees, pelvis, back, and my body doesn't adapt very well to change, especially in a competitive environment. So I won't be retaining the standard physique saddle. Again, that'll go on the bike when I sell it, but I will use the Shimano Pro Stealth 142. I just know it works really well for me. So that's as far as the cockpit goes. Another thing that I will be doing is going with cush core. So cush core inserts, and neat thing is now they do an XC version. So instead of having the big plus ones that you can't fit in the skinnier carbon rims and the smallest profile tyres, so that'll work on like your 2.1s, 2.2s. I'll be running 2.35 knobby nicks, Schwalbes, because I just know that they work well for me and they've got a good track history. But the cush core itself, it's kind of for the moto guys. It's similar to a moose actually. So it's on a carbon rim, it's a little bit of insurance because obviously if you get a cut, the tire's going to go down, and if you're in a race situation, you're not going to be too kind on the wheels to get back to the service. So at least you can still ride it, obviously at a little bit slower pace, but it'll take care of the rim a little bit better. And also if you're going out on a training ride and that sort of thing, you don't really have to worry too much about taking spares with you, because that'll get you back to the car or back to the end of the trail. Next up, I will be putting Shimano XTR pedals on, just because they're light, I like how they feel, and I can adjust them as much as I like. As far as the crank goes, I have always used 170mm cranks this bike's a medium and it's come to 175, so I know that that's not going to work for me. So I've already got a set of Boost SRAM cranks that I had on a previous bike, which are a 170. They don't currently have a 36 tooth chainring on them, so I will be putting a 36 on because I know that that works for me and I can still get up the climbs with, you know, the 3650 quite easily. Because the stock one is the 32, so for me I think that I'll be running out of gears. I'd like to think so, my legs probably will tell me otherwise, but that's where I'm going to go with the chainring. I'll obviously fit a Seabear ceramic bottom bracket. It's proven track history for me. I know that you know, the reliability, the less friction, that sort of thing, and maybe it's a little bit psychological as well. I'm a numbers nerd. Not that I really train to numbers, I just like to feel good about seeing the numbers. So I've got a 170mm stages power meter that I will use on the bike to measure power output. A couple other things that I will do in the future as well is I will get a different damping kit so I can have a remote lockout on the front fork, and I'll look at possibly doing the same thing with the rear shock. But the neat thing with this bike is if I don't like that 120mm travel platform, I can change the shock stroke to then have 100mm and also the fork. But I was always going to put a 120mm fork on my previous Revolver and have a 120-100, whereas now I've got a 120-120. And if that feels too slow, which I highly doubt, I can always change the stroke so then I can go to a 120-100, which was what I was going to build anyway. What else am I going to do? A Supercaz bottle cage that's on its way, a nice fancy carbon one which looks matte black and gloss black with a bit of blue. Yeah, so I think that when I've got the build up and going, I'll definitely do another video and show you the complete bike built, obviously the weights, that sort of thing, and get some action shots with the bike when I'm out riding. So